Good evening and welcome to Let's Play Along the Edge. This will be a blind playthrough. This is a game, the devs contacted me and gave me a key. It's a visual novel and on its Steam page it says, "Are you a witch or a scientist?" Well, I am intrigued. I've played a couple visual novels and they're surprisingly fun, and honestly I like the idea of witch or scientist. That sounds fantastic to me. So let's see what we got here. Let's get right in here. Along the Edge is an interactive graphic novel. During your adventure, you'll be asked to make choices that will define how your story progresses. Awesome! Some of these choices will have direct consequences, forking the story in one direction instead of another. However, each of your decisions, even the most anecdotic, will have an impact on the personality of the main character, Daphne. This sounds like my kind of thing. Stories are what I'm all about. Alright. Your progress is automatically saved. The button in the bottom left brings you back to the last checkpoint. This allows you to read the latest sentences again, but not to change a choice you've already performed. Okay, top corner gives us access to the menu, so display option, main menu, mute or unmute the sound. Alrighty. When one of your decisions influences Daphne's personality, one or two symbols light up on the top of the screen. Okay, cool. So the sun, the globe, the moon, and the star. So decisions are neither good nor bad. The branching of the story opens different narrative hypotheses, shaping your adventure according to your choices. Choose wisely. Wisely. Let's do it. So, is it settled? Yes, I guess I need this fresh start. This inheritance, it's exactly what I needed to finally turn the page. Huh? Oh, and this is our girl. I know you've convinced yourself of this, but are you sure of what you really wish to achieve by relocating? Ooh, where are we going to? After all, you recently went through a major trauma, and there's still a lot of ground to cover. What happened? Between you and I, you know what I think of your decision, but I can't prevent you from leaving. Did you already find a job there? Yes, I did. I'm substitute teaching for a math teacher at the village's middle school. Pregnancy leave. 6 months. It should give me enough time to get my bearings. Oh, she's a teacher. Okay. Don't you mind giving up your PhD? Your research career was quite promising. Well, maybe she changed her mind and realized it's not for her. I don't like I do, but I have no choice. Because I think if you really want a thing, you can make it work. So far, I really don't know, but we get to be Daphne and we get to decide. I'm going to go with, no, I don't mind giving it up. Sometimes you can be pursuing a thing and you figure out that it's just not really the right thing for you, and you didn't realize that until you were really going along with it. Especially considering, I could get in a rant about this, and I'll try not to, but I feel like there's so much pressure on you when you're in high school, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, like, you need to jump right from high school to college, and you need to pick out a career path, you need to do whatever you're going to do, and you don't really understand all the options you have or even what things mean. When I was in high school, senior year, what are you going to do? And I thought, okay, I'll be a genetic engineer, because that would be really cool, right? But it's not until I started taking the chemistry classes in college that I realized I really kind of hate chem lab, and that's what being a genetic engineer would be. So then all of a sudden it's like, all right, well, I don't think I'm going to be happy with that, so what do I want to do? And it's kind of intimidating. There's so many choices. So I think it's important to, sometimes you realize the path you were on isn't what you thought it would be, or it's not as interesting anymore, and there's no shame in giving up and saying, you know what, it's not the right thing. No, I'm going to do something else. No. Honestly, I didn't enjoy being alone in a lab all day long. I feel you, Daphne. Being in contact with other human beings will be much more fulfilling. Especially being a teacher seems like it could be cool. And 6th grade isn't too bad. 7th and 8th grade, I don't think I could be a 7th or 8th grade teacher, though. The kids can be rotten. I remember my classes were rotten. We took pride in trying to demoralize our substitute teachers, so... Oh, next. I see. One last thing. I know your relationship with Frank is quite tense. It is. We broke up recently, and I used to count on his support. After so many years together, I need time. I guess you're fully aware that you're about to break your ties with him. Are you sure you won't regret it later? Is that really something you should be saying, Dr. Durant? It seems like he's my psychologist, right? Like, no, if we broke up, Maybe it's just me. And I guess maybe he's a professional, he knows her better. But if I break up with someone, I don't want my psychologist to be like, "Are you sure you should break up with him? You might regret it." Like, no, if it was the right decision, accept it, move on. It'll be fine. Did you at least inform him of your plans? No, if we're broken up, then he doesn't need to know about my plans. Why would I tell him? None of his business anymore. No, I didn't, and it doesn't concern him anymore. We broke up, Doctor. Why would I drag things out by telling him what I'm doing and keep trying to give him an in into my life? Finished. Let it be done. All right. Listen, Daphne, you have my number. Please don't be afraid to call me if you need anything. I'm counting on you. All right. Okay, I will. Then all I can do is wish you all the best. When are you leaving? Tomorrow. All right, off we go. No, okay, so we've gone through some kind of trauma, but we are gonna move to a new place, new career, not bringing our boyfriend along with us that we broke up with. It's a new life. We're gonna rebuild ourselves, Daphne, and it'll be awesome. Okay, August. I'm leaving tomorrow. I've inherited this family house, my grandmother's. That would be kind of cool. Well, the only grandmother I knew was my great-grandmother. Both my grandmothers had died before I was born, but I had my great-grandma, and she was awesome, and her house was great. My great-grandfather built it. And when she passed on, it did go to someone else in the family. And it's kind of nice, that idea that it's still in the family. Unfortunately, it's in a bad neighborhood, and they ended up moving, and a part of me thinks, I kind of wish I don't want to live in that neighborhood, but I would like to have the house. My grandmother's house, the house my grandpa built. I haven't known her, and now I never will. I didn't know my grandma either, but the house will still be kind of a connection for you, I think, Daphne. My mother had burned the bridges with this side of the family. The only side, by the way, since I've never known who my father was, that would be hard. Remember the birthday cards, though. My mother had hidden them between 2 piles of laundry in the linen closet. If the link had been broken, it wasn't my grandmother's fault. And here I stand, 10 years later, inheriting this big house 300 miles away, having myself cut off all contact with my mother. Oh wow, well, I can't say for sure if her mother had a legitimate issue with her grandma or not, but I don't know. If her mother lost the relationship first with her own mom and then her kid cut off contact with her, it sounds like maybe she just had a difficult mother. That's what they call karma, isn't it? The other PhD students asked me to meet them at the bar. I could also go see Frank to say goodbye. There's no point. If you're broken up, it's done. I told Dr. Durant I didn't want to tell him I was leaving, but it's my last chance to do this by the book. Am I really sure of my choice? Yeah. And of course, I can also just go home. What should I do? Well, we're not going to go to Frank. It's done. Let it be done. Don't drag it out. We don't need to tell him we're going because what we told the doctor was right. It's finished. It's not his business. We can each move on with our lives. Do I want to go to the bar and talk to the students? Okay, me personally, I would probably want to go home because I'm just kind of, that's just how I tend to be kind of introverted and I'm never excited about going to things. I'll have fun when I get there, but the idea of going there in the first place, it's like, ugh, it's so daunting. I could just go home and relax. Wouldn't that be more fun? Wouldn't that be better? Read a book, play some video games. But I don't know. I think it could be good for her. If you're moving 300 miles away and it's kind of the last time and you left the program, it'd be nice to have a sort of farewell party. So let's do that. I'm going to trust that they're going to be good and they're not going to question me and be like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Don't leave. Like, just be happy for me. Yeah, we'll try it. I went to the bar to meet the other students. I didn't have it in my heart to refuse. Oh, that doesn't sound good. If she didn't want to go, then she shouldn't have gone, but I've never really integrated myself in this small group. In fact, all they think about is their career at the university. I know I'll regret giving up my research, but, oh, bummer, I wish I'd known that before. But on the other hand, I didn't see myself having a brilliant career. Despite their cool and easygoing attitude, I know the others would gladly kill each other for an article in Nature. Well, but if she doesn't see herself having a career she's happy with, then this is the right choice, Daphne. Don't force yourself to do something that's going to make you unhappy, you know? Just Move in your grandma's house, be a teacher, find something that makes you happy. I've never been at ease in this environment. All I ever wanted was to help advance science, which I can get behind that idea. Science is seriously important. We're going to go on a bit of a tangent here, because this is a thing that bothers me. And I don't know if I don't know, maybe it's just the kinds of things I come across, but I feel like people just don't respect science the way they should. They think it's some kind of, I don't know, like mumbo jumbo, or like it's going to be, listen, I know studies can be manipulated, and people can try and, you can make ridiculous arguments based off stuff, but when it comes down to it, the whole point of science is just understanding the world, how things work, and what we can do to help achieve outcomes that we want, like, you know, the medical side of science, combating illnesses and stuff. Science is here to better our understanding and therefore better the quality of our lives. That's the point of science. It doesn't have some sort of agenda, and yet all the time you get, the things that people, the arguments I hear, the way people will just kind of deride scientists, like these are people who focus on observable data, repeatable experiments. They're not trying to persuade you to believe some sort of ideology or anything. It's facts. It's all about just facts, hard facts. That's what science is about. So it just kills me when people will argue against it, or they'll insist, like, there's I forget where it is, but there's like a scientific creationist museum that has people like riding on dinosaurs and stuff, and I hate it. People I've known and respected a lot have been like, oh, nope, the world is only, what is it, 4,000, 6,000 or something years old, that they say, the people who believe that, like the big flood or whatever, like, guys, why do you hate science so much? Science is important. So yes, advancing science, I can totally get behind her thinking there, because science is awesome. Add my stone to the building. I know it's a bit cliche to think like that, but it's the truth. Science will have to make do without me, and I don't think it's losing much. Bummer that she doesn't believe in herself like that, but yeah, that is what science is all about. It's about building on the information that we've already discovered and learning more and understanding. I can't believe I thought they wanted to surprise me, to celebrate my leaving. But then I haven't told anybody, except my research director. He seemed a bit disappointed at first, and then not that much. I should go. I have to take the road early tomorrow. I feel bad making her go to this now. It wasn't like a happy send-off. This was just filling her with doubts and regrets. We should have just gone home. That's it. Everything I own is packed in a couple of boxes. I'd like to be sad to leave, but I really don't mind. My last night here, I don't know what I'm hoping to find there. Sometimes you just need a change, Daphne. Just anything new. A fresh start? Yeah. I'm trying to convince myself of that. Maybe Dr. Durant is right. Maybe all of this is nothing but evading the issue. Well, I'd need to know what the issue is, but not necessarily. Sometimes you do need to start over. Did my mother feel the same when she left my grandmother's village 30 years ago? Am I walking in her footsteps after all? The difference is that she had me. I'm leaving alone. I'm asking myself too many questions. You are. I can't blame you for it. Self-doubt creeps in. What are you going to do? But I think it's going to work out for the best, Daphne. I do. It doesn't sound like you're really happy here where things are going. Change is what you need. I've taken my decision. Can't afford to go back. Can't undo what I've done. Try to get some sleep. 300 miles. I got up way too early. The trip is going to be long. Little by little, civilization slowly gives way to empty spaces. The highway is replaced by an interlacing of small roads, and the clear directions given on the major routes turn into a tracking game that's getting increasingly trickier as I get closer to my destination. If you're moving from like the big city out into the country, Daphne, I was raised in the country. There were farms around me. And even when I live pretty city right now, but I'm more of a rural sort of girl at heart. I like the open spaces. I like fields of corn or just forest, nature-y type things. So it's you just feel better, even if I'm just going out for like a drive in my car, just driving for the day. Something in my mind just kind of opens up and feels at ease in those sorts of areas. So I think it'll be better for many ways to get away from the crowded city. The road goes through the village, which I cross quickly. Although I thought I was getting away from the agitation of the city, all this peace and serenity seems to hide something nefarious. Really? Almost ominous. What's ominous out in the countryside? After a couple of miles, I turn into a dirt track overrun with weeds. I go through the gates marking the limits of the family domain. Then on the right, I see a small stone house. Stone houses are beautiful. That must be the outbuilding where the couple of wardens live. It was specified in the act of succession the notary made me sign. I decide to leave the car there. I don't feel like driving all the way back in reverse if the track turns out to be a dead end. Walking a bit further, I see a man coming toward me with a rifle. He's carrying a rifle and a dead rabbit by the ears. Oh, well, then he was just out hunting. Ooh, Mr. Bortine. Hello, miss. You're on private property. Did you take a wrong turn? Well, maybe. Well, we need directions, but first the polite thing to do is apologize. I'm sorry, I must be lost. I'll turn around. Well, no, you need to apologize and ask him where you are. Wait, are you Miss Delatour by any chance? I am? I am indeed. How did you guess? You're the spitting image of your grandmother. Well, when she was young, I mean. All right, I'm connecting here with you, Daphne. I am the spitting image of my grandmother as well, whom I also never knew, because as I said earlier, she'd died before I was born. And I didn't know for years and years, and then recently I started doing like family tree work, and I talked to my uncle who has all the family pictures, and I look like her. I look so much like her, and it was just kind of cool. It was this connection to this lady that I would have liked to have known that I never got to know. So, I'm Gerard Bortine, the warden. Nobody told me you were coming. Oh, sorry about that. Is the house open? No. Well, yes, it's been a couple of months now since Mrs. Delatour passed away. So with my wife, Gilbert? This is French, which is cool, but I don't know French pronunciations, so I apologize in advance that I'm probably going to really butcher some of these pronunciations. We've made sure everything was weatherproofed, but the door isn't locked. Really? Well, the only path goes by our house, and there's not a lot of visitors anyway. The villagers usually avoid coming up here, you know. Why is that? Why are they avoiding the house? People get worked up for nothing around here. An old lady living alone in a big house and who doesn't go out much, that's enough to make them talk. Ah, okay. Thank you, sir. I'll be in the house if you're looking for me. I'll send you my wife, Gilbert. That's what I'm just going to call her. That works for me. She'll help you open the shutters. Keep going along the path. It's not very far, and you can't get lost. All right. Goodbye, Mr. Bortine. Have a nice day. Well, he seems nice. About 500 feet further, the path in the woods opens on a kind of meadow where the house was built. Although several generations of Delatours lived here, I discovered this legacy for the first time. See, for me personally, that would be so awesome, because I like that kind of thing. A family house, generations of your family lived there. That's just cool. The building is impressive, with this tower in the middle of the facade, the last remain of an older version of the castle, and certainly at the origin of my family name. Come to think of it, my grandpa built his house as well, and it's also in an area where I wouldn't really want to live now because it's really city and it's not the best area. Well, it was country when he built it, and it would be cool to have that house as well. But now they're going to move on to someone who they don't really mean anything to because it's not family living there anymore. Bummer. As promised, the door isn't locked and opens on an entrance hall plunged in darkness. As I cross the threshold, I'm seized by the coolness of the old stones, breaking with the searing heat of the midday sun shining over the garden. I can't see much of the room, but its size promises to be intimidating. That might be a nice change from the tiny city flats I used to live in. Yeah, space to breathe. I'm desperately trying to open one of the windows to let the light in when I'm surprised by a voice coming from the entrance. Miss? An old woman is standing at the threshold. Hey there, Mrs. Bortine. Yes? My husband told me you were coming to the house. Are you planning to stay for the night? I am planning to live here. Much more than the night. I'm moving in. Oh, and call me Daphne, please. I'll get my share of Miss and Madam when I start working at the school. Are you aware of the inheritance? So you're Madam's granddaughter, then. She used to talk about you a lot, you know. Did she? I remember you. Well, I mean, it was a long time ago. You were still a baby when Miss Sophie left. Madam never got over it. Well, I'm sure you have a lot to tell me, but can't you do it while helping me open the shutters? Daphne, be polite. Oh, sure, I'm sorry. So, are you moving into the castle? You're going to work at the village's middle school, aren't you? Yep. Yes, I'm a math teacher. I'm going to teach there. Well, at least for the next 6 months as a substitute. So, tell me, how do you want to proceed? I mean, I know you've been working for my grandmother, but I'm not sure I can afford your services, if you see what I mean. The inheritance left me barely enough to cover the cost of the house for a couple of years. Oh, don't worry. Gerard and I, we've retired 2 years ago, but Madam didn't forget us in the legacy. She was kind enough to let us live in the outbuilding for the rest of our days. Oh, well, that'll be nice, because you guys seem really pleasant. They know what's going on around here, so, it'll be a good thing to have some neighbors that are familiar with the area, and that can tell us stories about, our grandma. We didn't get to know her, but at least now we know someone who knew her. We'll help for as long as we can, my husband and I. We've done this all our life. Work doesn't scare us. And anyway, it would be boring to have nothing to do all day. Well, their help is more than welcome. I can't ask you to work for free. I mean, I want to be polite. I don't want it to sound like I'm brushing her off. And it would be nice to be able to pay her. But, I mean, Daphne did say we don't have a way to pay. She says they're happy to just stay there and help out, so, well, we'll let them. And then maybe we'll find ways that we can help them in turn as payment. That's great news. Without some help, I don't know how I would have managed to get everything done in such a big house. And we'll be happy to give a hand. Well, all right, we made some friends already. Would you like me to get you some groceries from the market tomorrow? I used to do it for Madam. Since Miss Sophie left, she didn't go out much. It's a generous offer, and there are times I'd be happy to have someone do my grocery shopping for me, but sometimes it's nice to get out of the house and just kind of see my surroundings, so... No, don't worry, I'll go. It will give me an opportunity to check the village out. Yeah, like in the long run, if she wants to pick up groceries sometimes, that'll be great, but yeah, sometimes you just gotta get out yourself and see what's going on. Mrs. Bortine helps me make my bed. The windows, now wide open, let the stuffy smells out while ushering in the golden light of the sun, setting on this nice summer evening. Then she leaves me alone for my first night in my new home. I spend it watching the antique television in the kitchen while eating, for dinner, the leftovers of a sandwich I bought earlier on the highway. Well, you gotta explore this house. What kind of things are there? I try to get some sleep, far from the reassuring sounds of the cars and the lights of the city, with this forest silence only interrupted by some disturbing squeaking of the floorboards and the hooting of a hunting night owl. Ah, you'll get used to the quiet, though. It'll be soothing. It's not surprising I got up in quite a bad mood, and if the sight of the empty fridge hadn't pushed me to act, I would certainly have succumbed to the inviting comfort of the sofa and wasted my day napping in the living room. The market, it wasn't exactly what I imagined. Well, it looks pleasant here. We all have this romantic notion of the picturesque little country town market, but this one was nothing but purely functional. Nothing romantic in the butcher's stall, nor in the fishmonger's radio, tuned in way too loud on a local station that seems to broadcast, at this hour of the day, a playlist of songs that used to be popular, but are utterly old-fashioned nowadays. Hey, sometimes it's nice to listen to oldies. I'm buying some bread when someone boldly cuts me in the line. Stanislas Smelter. Give me 3 baguettes and 2 nut breads, sliced peas. Please wait your turn, buddy. I'm sorry, but I believe it was my turn. It will only take an instant. Don't worry. No, that's not the point of it. You don't cut in front of people. No, I'm not keeping calm. You can wait. You don't get to cut just because you think your order is going to be fast. I'm not going to take that long either. Who do you think you are? You're not from around here, are you? No, I'm not, and you can wait in line. What does that have to do with anything? Listen, miss, please inform yourself before you start making a scene. It's a little bit embarrassing. For you, maybe. You get to wait in line, Buster. See, I'm done already. It didn't take that long, did it? Have a nice day. What a presumptuous jerk. I don't care if it's not about how long it takes. You ask. You can say, my order's really short, do you mind if I go first? Or I've really got to hurry, do you mind? Ask permission, you don't just cut in front of people. The man put some change in the baker's hand before disappearing in the street. Seriously, who's this guy? You're not from around here, are you? It's Maltaire's son. His family owns the sawmill that employs half the town. As for the other half, they're all in business with them, one way or another. Okay, so he's some kind of local yokel who thinks he's a big shot and he's going to treat people like crap just because his family is the ones in charge. I see. Well, does it give him the right to behave like this? No, it doesn't, and we're going to be unpleasant to him whenever we get the chance. You shouldn't cross the Maltaires, you know. They've been in town for generations. People say all sorts of things about them. People say all sorts of things about everybody. I'll cross them all I want. Listen, I am the granddaughter of the old spinster in the way that you guys had some kind of weird rumors about, so I've got some clout myself. There we go. Kind of things. Strange accidents, businesses suddenly going bankrupt. People are quite superstitious here. Good for them. I'm not going to allow superstition to let this guy treat me like crap. Yeah, they should not take advantage. I'm sure you're going to remind me that I'm not from around here, but taking advantage of the villagers' credulity, it's disgusting. It is. Listen, I'm leaving the area soon, so you'll understand I don't want to drag myself into this. The others told me to be careful with this family, and I don't want any trouble. You know, and that's fine. I don't want to give you trouble. I'm just saying. I'm willing to start trouble with him. I see. Someone's got to stand up to a bully. I realize I've already been here a couple of days, and I haven't taken the time to visit the house properly. How could you restrain yourself? I would be burning with curiosity. With my tight schedule, I stayed in the main rooms, going from the bedroom to the kitchen through the living room. It's high time I take advantage of the weekend to give myself the grand tour. Yeah. Maybe I'll learn a thing or two about my grandmother and this family I know nothing about. We really need to go back and talk to the caretaker's wife as well, because she can probably tell, well, both of them, the whole couple can probably teach us a lot about our grandmother too. I could also ask a couple of questions to Mrs. Bertine. Till now, she's remained very evasive. If I go see her outside her work hours, she might be more inclined to answer me. Oh no, don't make me choose! She's a very discreet woman, and somehow always manages not to be in the same room as me. If I leave the kitchen for a while, to take a shower for example, when I come back I always find out that the leftovers of my breakfast have been put away, the table has been cleaned up, and the dishwasher is gently humming. I've told her several times not to make my bed, that I'm perfectly capable of doing it myself. She seems to acknowledge, but keeps making it the next morning anyway. Well, if you want to save her the trouble, then make the bed right after you get up for the day, before she has a chance. So I guess she might enjoy a friendly visit. Where should I start? Oh my gosh. I really want to look around the house. I can't believe Daphne hasn't looked around the house thus far. But politeness is important. Mrs. Bertine is helping us out for no pay. We need to make overtures of friendship to her. So let's talk to her. Hello, Mrs. Bertine. How are you doing? Oh, hi, Miss Daphne. My joints are aching today. Must be the weather getting colder. Summer always goes so fast. It's almost fall already. Can you believe it? But enough talking about me. I'm sure you haven't come around to hear the old maid complain about her rheumatism. Hey, it's all right. How can I help you, miss? Well, why would we just go first thing? No, I want to talk to you about my grandma. Tell me how it was like in the old days. I mean, before Mom left. When your mother left, we were already at the end of the rope, if you allow me, miss. Huh? There were only your grandmother, Madame Adelaide, and Miss Sophie living here. Who's Madame Adelaide? Or your grandmother is Madame Adelaide, that probably, okay. Your grandfather died when your mother was still a little girl. An illness that took him without warning. The doctors didn't know what to do for this poor man. But when I had arrived, it was something else. There were lots of people living in the castle. Yeah? The cousins, the uncles, the aunts, and a swarm of children. What happened to everyone? What happened? I don't know, really. There were some unexplained deaths, accidents. What, is this tied into that guy we met today? Is it more than superstition? Some of them left the area, got out of touch. It all started when the Maltaires bought the sawmill. It is. So, yeah, I don't know that there must be a connection, but she's stating it kind of like she assumes there is, she thinks there is. So tell me about that. Do you really think there might be a link? I mean, there's no logical connection between buying a sawmill and these accidents. Daphne, you don't know that. You don't know what kind of accidents they were. If they're sawmill related, then yeah, there's a connection. I can't tell, miss. All I can see is that when the Maltaires flourish, the Delators wither. Hmm. I met Maltaire's son at the bakery. Yeah, he was unpleasant. This hooligan? I know it's none of my business, but you should be wary of him. He's a good-for-nothing who spends his time doing who knows what, hanging around in his car. Yeah, I did not get a very good first impression of him, Mrs. Bertine. Don't worry. I don't judge people. I shouldn't judge people, but I do judge people, and I didn't like him. I agree with you. You're right. He acted like a jerk with me. Ah, do you see? Exactly my point. Yeah, I see. Well, since you're asking about the past, would you like to see the old picture albums? Yes, I really would. Sure, tell me where I can find them. I'd love to take a look. Thanks. The cupboard in the living room. There are even some pictures taken by your great-grandfather. You'll see. Yeah, that sounds fantastic. What a great find that would be. Something else? Nope, that's all we got, so thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I'll come back later. What should I do next? Well, we need to look at the picture albums. I do want to check out the house too, but... I found the pictures where Mrs. Bertine told me they would be, to discover that my great-grandfather had had an early passion for the darkroom, and that his photographs from the last century had survived time. That is wonderful. Although the trouble is, sometimes with these pictures, I had this with all the pictures that my uncle had. Like, there's a lot of fantastic pictures, some nice, really old ones, but he didn't know who everyone was. And some of the really old ones, like all the family that would have known, has passed on by now. So some of them just remain mysteries. Vexing. The family was larger then, with a swarm of children in the gardens and large tables at the holiday gatherings. If I could read worry on the adults' faces, if the future ruin and dereliction of House Delator couldn't already crack the walls and yellow the wallpapers, it wasn't showing on these old daguerreotypes. I found a couple of pictures of my mother, as a child first, then as a young girl. I must admit I was moved by this discovery, since I had never seen what she used to look like when she was younger. The last pictures showed her belly getting rounder and rounder. And then nothing. No more pictures, as if nothing worth documenting had happened during the last 30 years. What should I do next? Let's go to... Well, the tower sounds mysterious, but we want to work our way back, I think, through the things closest to us, which would be our mother. So let's look at her bedroom. My grandmother used to live alone in this big house, so she kept most of the rooms closed to stay in the ground floor, in the left side of the building. I've taken over her quarters, and, with the nights getting colder, I'm happy I don't have to keep the whole house warm. I checked the other rooms, the parlors on the ground floor, or in the multiple bedrooms above. Everything seems frozen in time, the furniture covered with white linen sheets, maybe waiting for better days to return, like when Adelaide wasn't a widow yet and my mother was still living under her roof. Her old bedroom hasn't changed since her teen years, even if I can tell that someone has hurriedly made room for me, this baby who was about to be born. There are still some band posters from another age pinned to the walls. Oh, and the crib where I might have spent my first few nights before my mother decided to leave. But there wasn't any white linen sheet to protect the furniture in this room, and it looks like it has been cleaned up very recently. Oh. Did Mrs. Bertine come in here for some reason? Well, I want to check the tower, but I kind of want to... Well, maybe we should check the tower first and then go back to Mrs. Bertine and ask her all our questions. I didn't find the entrance of the tower. I searched inside and outside the house, but no door seems to lead to it. Well, we will find a way in. After randomly exploring the corridors and the rooms, I had to admit defeat. Maybe you gotta go to, like, the basement? And there's a door down there? I'll have to ask Mrs. Bertine about this mystery. However, while I was searching for this damned entrance, my feet took me to the basement where I discovered a treasure of old wines. Okay, so we can't reach the tower in the basement, but hey. The most recent bottles were around 30 years old, I guess my grandmother wasn't much of a drinker, and the wine cellar must have remained untouched since her husband passed away. Did my mother come here during her teen years, defying her parents' rules, to steal a bottle to share with her friends from the village? Well, it's the kind of thing teens do sometimes. It's possible. Was I conceived during one of these parties, celebrated by sacrificing these rare vintages on the altar of youth, with my mother Sophie not being sober enough to resist the charms of a young local farmer? Well, I guess if you've never known your dad, then you might wonder these kinds of things. I've never actually thought about, the circumstances under which I was conceived. When I was old enough to ask, she always answered, with a hand gesture, that my father was from the village and hadn't wanted to recognize this child he didn't ask for. All in all, she said, we were better off without him. But I wonder what if he's a Maltaire? Ugh! Maybe I could bring a bottle to Mrs. Sportine. Yeah, that's a nice thought. Yeah, let's do. As I take a bottle from its shelf to decipher its dusty label, oh no, it slips from my hands and breaks. Suddenly, I'm overwhelmed by this feeling, as if I was violating something sacred, trampling the memory of my grandfather, who might have selected this precise vintage to celebrate something special. I begin to question my intentions. We were just intending to be nice. Is offering this bottle an honest mark of affection towards a kind old lady? Or am I planning to get Mrs. Bertine drunk in order to extort more information from her? No, we are not trying to get anybody drunk. We're just trying to be nice. It's a mark of affection. This feels like a trick question here, this choice. I do want to take a bottle, but it's not to get her drunk. I'm just trying to be nice to her. Alright, we'll try it. A white Bourgogne? She should like it. And anyway, I don't have to drink myself blind with Mrs. Bortine. I'm sure I can drink responsibly. I don't even have to drink. We could just give it to her. Here you go. It's a gift. And then let her drink it whenever she feels like it. Well, next we need to head back to her. Something else. Just a couple things. So, about my mother's bedroom. It looks like someone's been in there. I visited the house, gone into every room, and I noticed all the furniture was covered with white linen sheets. Yes, it's Madam your grandmother who has asked me to close most of the rooms. Okay, but what about my mom's room? She lived alone in the house and never had any visitors. It was to prevent the furniture from being damaged. Why are you asking? Do you want me to open up the rest of the house? Well, it's a good idea. It's a bit of extra work for you, but will definitely improve my quality of life. Do it yourself, Daphne. You don't have to ask her to do it. One of the rooms, I guess it's my mother's old bedroom. Why wasn't it closed, as you say? Because Madam asked me to keep it freshly cleaned. Oh, was she always hoping she would come back? You know, when Miss Sophie left, it broke her heart. She wasn't the same afterwards. Right until she died, she never gave up hope your mother would come back. Oh. She asked me to make her room every day, just in case, she used to say. Something else? Yeah, how do I get into the tower? I couldn't find the entrance to the tower. Do you know how to get inside? Well, I can't say, miss. No, I couldn't tell you how to get in if my life depended on it. Now, that's an interesting, instead of just saying no, I can't say, I couldn't tell you even if my life depended on it. So she knows, but for some reason can't tell us? Madam, your grandmother used to say it has been walled up, and we'd rather not know what was inside. I want to know what's inside. Do you mean that no one got inside the tower since, 30 years ago? 40 years ago? Oh, way more than that. I'm 67. I've been living here since I was 14, and I always knew the tower like this. Oh my gosh, curiosity would be eating me alive. We gotta find a way to that tower. So no one knows what's inside, right? You must have your own idea, don't you? You must have heard something in the village, right? Well, that's just gossip. Nothing worth talking about. No, I didn't hear anything in the village. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Please don't insist, miss. With all due respect, I can't resolve myself to defile your late grandmother's name. Well, that sounds juicy. Oh, we skipped. I was going to give her the wine. Talking with Mrs. Bertine aroused my curiosity. The tower, the village, the Maltaires, and I thought my relocation would mean living a life of austerity and isolation. Well, this is good. This is all kinds of nice distraction. What's going on in the village is, I must admit, much more intriguing than I anticipated. Unfortunately, the chores of everyday life catch up with me before I have leisure to think about it. I have no choice but to dedicate the last days of August to the preparation of my classes at the middle school, and I didn't realize how time-consuming it was. So I spend most of my time confined to the house, boning up on the textbooks of each class I've been given. Then the first day of school arrived, and I quickly found my bearings in my new job. I would never have thought that teaching mathematics would give me so much pleasure and satisfaction. Ah, see, but it has. So career-wise, this has been a very good choice. Thus, I quickly got into a routine, and days began to pass me by like trains. Oh, Chapter 2. And I think this is a good spot. We'll go ahead and wind the episode down here. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed this. Come back and next time, we'll start Chapter 2.